be honest, no one is scared. I'm definitely not scared. So, like Shakun said, he turned into a social recluse. He was sitting in his room alone and apparently speaking in Spanish. I jumped onto the Narcos bandwagon a little later. You know, I was shooting, and sometimes at the end of the day, you come back home and like you want to watch a show, but you're so tired that your eyes are just like closing. So I was a little late to the party, but suddenly I started feeling really awkward because I was sitting in conversations. People were like, so, you know, we want to make this movie and make it like Narcos, you know. What about this idea? We can do it like a show, like Narcos. And you know, that character, like Narcos, like Narcos, like Narcos. And I'm like, oh my God, just keep quiet. Everything is about Narcos. This reference is just going out of hand. I cannot be like Joey sitting in this room, not aware of anything anymore. So eventually, I did watch Narcos, and then I understood. It made complete sense what a global phenomenon this show really is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's undoubtedly one of the most successful. Welcome to India.
I think you should sit in the middle, and we should sit around you. Yeah.
Hello.
So, Eric, this is your second trip to India.
This is my second trip. I was here December of last year for a movie called Bright, which we publicized here, and it was a lot of fun.
So, how are you liking it? I mean, tell us how was your experience been?
I love it. I think it's an amazing place. I'm sort of inspired by the diversity in the city. It's a very global city. It seems like someone told me there are 16 different languages spoken here. Is that possible? Is that
probably
right?
More.
More?
Yeah.
Different dialects.
Yeah, different dialects.
And the food is spectacular.
You tried the food?
Oh my, yeah, so of course, I live for it. I went to a place called Trishna, which I like very much. I went to a place called Bombay Canteen, which I like very much. And what else did I
Okay, so you're good on food.
I love it, yeah, I very much so.
And I hear you're coming in from Singapore, so
yes.
How was it, how did they let you get through immigration? They're really strict about the drug rules.
Seriously, I mean, I think that, you know, we get searched a little extra, I think, because they assume that we're in the business. If we were smart, we would be in that business. That's a real business. The entertainment business is nothing compared to the drug business.
Yeah.
Well, you know, talking about the show, Eric, you've had such a long journey with the story. And Netflix especially hasn't just changed the way we watch television, it's changed how we create and how we tell our stories. And you conceived this idea 20 years back as a feature film, and today it makes for 30 hours of one of the most riveting television, and now actually 40 hours.
40,
yeah. 40 hours of one of the most riveting television show we have. Tell us a little bit about your journey with this idea and this huge journey that you've had.
I first heard stories about the drug war in the mid-90s. Communism had sort of gone away as the enemy that it was for so long, and all of a sudden this thing that had transformed America called crack cocaine had sort of taken such a toll, and it was a problem that we had ignored, and there weren't a lot of stories about it. There was sort of the typical Latin American drug lord who would show up in a Jack Ryan movie or maybe a episode of Miami Vice, but it hadn't really been examined. And so I started to develop it as a film. And what I realized about movies versus television is that in a 2-hour format, you can't really get to know a character in a way that you could see him as anything but bad. And the reality is it's much more complex than that. And so the characters that we depict, first Pablo Escobar, then the Cali cartel, and now Felix Gallardo and the Guadalajara cartel, there's a certain complexity that can only be achieved in the longer format.
No, I totally agree with you, because that was going to be my next question. I love Pablo. Okay,
yes, like, you're supposed to.
It's strange. I want him to be my friend. I wanted him to win. Like, it was strange. And I was sitting in my room thinking, am I crazy? Like, is this wrong? I like the bad guy. But it was not just me. It was everyone. So, how much of that was put down to design? Did you...
Our goal is always to humanize these characters. You know, the mistake that we make is to think that any of these people are purely monsters. You know, they're not.
Like they're empathetic monsters.
They have to be. They have to actually show that they are the product of their environment, the economic disparity, corruption, the endless appetite for cocaine that America represents. It's not as simple, though I think we'd like it to be, that it is not as simple as a monster sprang forth from their mother's womb. These people were made. And I think the mistake that we make in the world, and certainly in America, is we're always looking for the monster, and as a result, we miss the monster taking shape behind us.
Right, I remember especially the last couple of episodes of season 2 when he goes and lives with his father, you know, and he tells him that I want to buy a piece of land next to yours. And it's almost like you stop looking at him as Pablo and you're looking at him as a father and son, you know. And then when he dies in the next episode, you have all these complex emotions you're feeling as an audience, because you don't want to really feel bad about a person who's killed thousands of people, but you do.
I wept for days.
Yeah, so I want to know is, were there ever conversations in the writer's room about, you know, compromising on show's morality? And
you know, we've never shied away from the awful things that he did. You know, we have, you know, Pablo Escobar blew up an airplane and killed, you know, 140 innocent people. He killed countless men, women, and children. And we never shied away from it, nor did we shy away from the fact that he loved his children and that he had in his mind, and I think this is true of everyone, we are all heroes or victims in our own story. And if you asked him whether he was a bad person, he would say absolutely not, and he would have an explanation. It would not be an excuse, but it would be certainly an explanation as to why he's not the bad guy. The Americans are the bad guys, or the Colombian government are the bad guys. And to a certain degree, he would be right.
Yep, and Pablo's gone, and hopefully, and actually I'm sure the world's a better place without him.
I agree.
And,
no, as much as you hate to see him go, you also know that you need to see him
absolutely.
go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, they all meet the same ending. They either die in a hail of bullets or they end up in a jail cell for the rest of their lives.
Right. And now talking about season 4, you know, we've seen the first 2 seasons with Pablo Escobar and Medellin cartel, 3rd season with Cali cartel, and now the 4th season, Guadalajara cartel? Guadalajara cartel. And take us through, you know, you're taking us back in time, into late 70s, early 80s, and we're going to see a rise of another cartel. So tell us about this decision to take us back into time and give us a little sneak peek into season 4.
Well, the plan was always to take the story, once we've completed the Colombian chapters, we plan to move the show to Mexico. We had perhaps thought we would follow chronologically from 1996 onwards. You know, the drug war in Mexico is still going on today, and it's many of the same players. But what we decided when we started doing the research is we learned it's impossible to tell the story of the drug war in Mexico without telling the story of the Guadalajara cartel and Kiki Camarena. And that period, which was 1980 to 1985, was really the beginning of it. And so to try and jump midstream into it would have done viewers a disservice. At the same time, we felt like this could be seen as a standalone, for sure. It could be the beginning of the Mexican chapter, but it's also Narcos season 4.
So do you think people who haven't watched Narcos yet, I don't think many of them really exist, but those who haven't, they could start with season 4 and then go back and move forward chronologically?
Absolutely. You do not need to have watched seasons 1 through 3 to watch season 4. In fact, you could start season 4 and then watch seasons 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so I just want to know honestly, because something that constantly gets thrown to me when I'm doing interviews is, you know, do you feel fear? Do you feel, were you anxious to play this character? Were you anxious to do this? My big question to you is, we as an audience get very attached to, you know, the protagonists, the locations. How do you feel when you're moving from season to season? Like when you finished season 2, you knew Pablo was gone. Now, what was the big challenge that you faced? Did you feel that fear that, okay, people may not be as invested? Because I remember people going like, oh my God, Pablo's gone, now what's left? And then came the Cali cartel and they were like, oh my God, it's even better, like, you know? So how do you feel when you're writing the shows and when you're going from season to season? And now with season 4, it's another big challenge again.
It's incredibly stressful. I don't know why I did it to myself in the design where we replace characters and setting, and we take a show that people seem to like very much and then abandon many of the things that they like about it. So it's sort of horrible. But the challenge, what it allows us to do is continue to raise the bar, culminating in, I believe, our best season, which is season 4, which is coming out this week.
You think it's your best season?
I think so, for sure.
Okay.
I think that, and I'm sensing that people who watch it agree. So it makes me happy. I think that, you know, one of the reasons why we cast Michael Peña and Diego Luna is we had an obligation to make the best, most real, authentic version of this show, and that there's, you know, audience demand. If you ask someone to accept the fact that they're not going to see Wagner Moura anymore, they're not going to see Pedro Pascal anymore, you have to give them something that very quickly in the first 2 episodes they say, okay, it's different, but I like it, and there's enough of the same that I feel like it's still Narcos.